is that strange Saturday in the middle of the month when Niharika and hopefully Maria Gillan will join us, and they're hosting our personal stories. For anyone who wants to actually expose themselves with their personal stories. So, and it's the first time I've joined this session, despite the fact that I'm supposed to be hosting or something. So welcome you all, and especially the people from Feast who are joining us for the first time. Over to you, Niharika.
Awesome, thank you. So in this space for personal stories, what we have is both kinds of stories. Like maybe these are stories that you have already in your repertoire, you've shared many times as a storyteller or with your families, or maybe these are stories that you are playing around with, experimenting, seeing what sticks, seeing what's interesting that comes out of it. Hopefully, as a result of sharing these in the swap with friendly faces that we have around here, you will identify the strengths of your story and then take it one step closer to putting it in your repertoire. So in this swap, we'll hear stories at all stages of the work that we put into it. Now, we also have a teller from India today. He's part of Commune, which is Commune and Tapetel, where they share personal stories live on stage, similar to Hong Kong stories, but this is from India. So the scale is much larger. We have Imrose here. Can we hear from Imrose? Just say hi.
Yeah. Hi, hello everyone. My name is Imroz Khan. I tell stories, and first of all, I had no clue that there are going to be international artists and performers. The reason why I am saying this because India as a Indian as a diaspora is around a billion or so much. To think of the space we operate in, so I thought that most of the people here will be Indian. But
Oh,
now I'm here
yeah,
and I'm like, shit, I'll have to do it in English. I'll have to shift some languages. I'll have to use some slangs. But it's a great experience bringing the world together. I think that was the reason why internet came. And Commune, I'm a part. India is a very big market and a platform where artists come together
awesome.
because of the diversity that we come from. And I'm really looking forward to learn and hear all of you today. And thank you, Niharika, for inviting me.
Awesome. Great. So we have our lineup ready and we have six storytellers, and I'm keen to jump right into it. So I am going to invite our very first storyteller. Please, with your fingers, welcome Meenu. Miss Spotlight Meenu. Meenu, just give me a second. I'm going to spotlight you. I don't have host control to spotlight. Do we have Lulu from World Storytelling Cafe? Oh, okay. He's given me host control. Let's see if I can spotlight you now. Yes. Okay. If we can have, before you start, Meenu, if we can just have everyone make sure they're on mute. Yes, perfect. Over to you, Meenu. Welcome.
Namaste, Namaskara, Vanakkam. My name is Meenu Sivaramakrishnan, a storyteller from Bengaluru, India. So, without further ado, here I jump into my story right away. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. A tune that my little one loves so much that every time we sing to her, she will follow immediately after. La 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 la. I looked at her and said, "Okay, Kutima, let's read a book. Okay, I'll get a book for you," I told. And I went to the bookshelf to pick a book for her. And there were those many books that I had read many times to my elder one. And later she had read it many, many times. Now staring at me as if they were saying, "Pick me, pick me, pick me, pick me." La 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 la. Oh, the little one was already entertaining herself. And I was looking at those books, thinking which one to pick. And just then, my eyes fell on this one. The first book that my husband had bought for my elder one. Or should I say, the first book that a father had got for his daughter. The next moment, a wave of nostalgia hit me. And many, many images went inside my mind. I was in 3rd grade, studying in a school in Madras city, now known as Chennai, down south of India. There was an announcement in the school that there was going to be a book exhibition the next day, and it was only for one day until 6 p.m. Aha! Book exhibition! I got so excited because you see, I was always fascinated by books. Having grown up on Amar Chitrakathas, Chanda Mamas, stories of Shikari Shambhu, or Tantri the Mantri, Chacha Chowdhury, Supandi, all those popular go-to books in children's magazines in India, especially for the children of the 90s. And a book exhibition? Well, I should tell you, I never knew how I had access to all these books. Perhaps passed down from my cousins, or maybe given by my friends or neighbors. I had absolutely no clue. But now there was a book exhibition, and this was a chance for me to get my first book. Even that thought was so thrilling. So after the school, I ran back home and told about this to my parents. I told my father, Appa, please, Appa, please, come to the school tomorrow. Take me to the book exhibition, Appa, please. I literally pleaded and begged him. But there was a problem. The next day was a working day. And Appa, that is my father, had office. And his office was quite far away from my school. And if he had to come to the exhibition before it gets over that evening, he had to start really quite early from office. And I have to tell you, my father was not someone who would take work so light. I was so very dejected. And I have to tell you, I have to confess that I was such a crybaby, In fact, even now. But I don't have to tell you, I was a kid that time, and I cried so bitterly. But, it was not that Appa did not have the intention to come or take me to an exhibition and buy a book. No, that was not the thing. The thing was the timing. The timing was not just right. But I was a kid of 8 after all, and I was so upset, and I went to bed with the same feeling. The next day morning, I got up, I got ready for school, and I was having my breakfast, and just then my Appa came to me and said, Meenu, today evening I'll come to your school and we'll go to the book exhibition. I couldn't believe my own ears. I quickly finished my breakfast. I put on my shoes and socks, and I took my bag and I stepped out. No. I stepped back in. I ran to my Appa and I asked him, Appa, are you sure you are going to be coming to my school today evening, right? He nodded and assured that he would. Later, I came to know that he had to take a couple of hours of permission to come over. But that time, I was really excited. I just couldn't wait for my school to get over. And 4:10 p.m. in the evening, the last bell rang. Ding, 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 ding. And along with all the students, I ran to the school gate. Appa is going to come to school. He's going to take me to my book exhibition, and I'm going to buy my first book. I was so excited, and I was waiting at the gate. The clock was ticking and ticking and ticking. and ticking and ticking. And where is Appa? Why hasn't he not yet come? It was getting late. The exhibition would be over soon, I thought. But there was just no sight of Appa at all. Oh no! Has he forgotten about the exhibition? Or did he get some last minute work that he's not able to come? No! Appa, please come. Oh God, please help. Please, please, please. And as I lifted my head, there I saw him at the end of the street walking towards the school. Such a relief, I can't tell you in words. Appa has come, is finally coming, and he walked closer to me. But wait a minute. He looked quite upset. But he just came to me and said, "Okay, Meenu, come, let's go to the book exhibition." Just no emotion at all. And as we turned and as I was about to walk, that is when I noticed, Appa! What happened? I screamed at the top of my voice because I saw that the dark blue bag that he was carrying had slits, cuts on all its sides, as if someone had intentionally, used a knife or perhaps a blade to cut, to damage it. Ayo, what happened, Appa? Appa turned and looked at me and said, "I got pickpocketed while coming in the bus to your school." What? But did you lose anything? Oh yes, I did. I did lose my purse, he said. Again, no iota of emotion at all. Immediately tears welled in my eyes. Oh no. It was not because he got pickpocketed. It was more because I was not sure if he would now have the money to buy me my book. I know. How self-centered I was, right? My Appa had gone through so much, but still I was like this. But anyway, I was a kid. I think I shouldn't be too harsh on myself, right? Anyway, so that moment, that time, there were all these questions in my head. Will he be able to get me a book? Will he have money? And it popped out. And I said, "Appa, will you be able to get me a book at the exhibition?" I asked. Again, no frustration, no anger, nothing he showed on me. And he just said, "Meenu, don't worry. I always split my money, right? Between my pant pocket and shirt pocket. So we do have money to get you a book and also go home safe." Ah, right. That is when it struck me. Typical Appa. He always split his money like that and kept. And after that, we did go to the book exhibition and yes, got my first book. The first book that my father got for me, his daughter. So here it is. I know, essays and letters. I don't know what really, was going on in my head, but this was my first book and I still have it. It is in my parents' home. That's why I'm showing you a picture. But this was it. Just holding it, such an out-of-the-world feeling. And after that, yes, of course, we went back home safe and sound to share all this with my mother and brother. As I held this book close to me, multitude of emotions came over me that day. 14th December 2019. I lost my Appa. 5.5 years have passed. And even today, I struggle to accept this, and I keep asking myself, why him? Why so early? But then I gathered my energy and I told myself, in fact, I keep telling myself at those moments, that quote from the Harry Potter movie, those who love us, never really leave us. You can always find them in here. Oh, yes. I have these precious memories, those lovely moments that I spent with him, and of course, these beautiful pictures that I've taken with him. La 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 la. Oh, yes, the calling had come. I took the book and I ran to her. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Meenu, for sharing that. And I think it's so timely with Father's Day next week or the week after that you've written such a beautiful tribute to your father.
Thank you.
In very classic feast style, Meenu has also made a really good use of her backgrounds. So Roger and Meenu, I believe, have expertise in this. So if anybody is looking to use that, do reach out to them and see how they use the backgrounds into their story while telling on Zoom. Thank you, Meenu. Now we are ready to welcome our next storyteller. She's coming from Manchester, UK. Please, everyone, welcome Lorna.
Hi there. It's actually Wolverhampton, Niharika, but it's close by. My name's Lorna, and I'm in England. And this story goes back to the mid 1980s when I was on maternity leave from teaching. And we hadn't got enough money, so we decided that, or I decided that I would do what was called play centre work, which the supervisor and deputy supervisor were usually teaching people, qualified teachers, whereas the play leaders themselves, who work with the children, tended to be students. And it was much more casual labour for them. So I'd already done a few of these play centres, and I had been to the one this one was near me. I'd been to it at Easter, worked for a fortnight. And then this was the summer holidays for us, which was 6 weeks worth of work. So a tidy bit of work. And I turned up on the first morning and was really, really pleased to see that several of the play leaders that I'd met before were there, and my boss, the actual supervisor, he was there, and I'd got on very well with him. So we, started our play centre work. It's about 100 children at this play centre, so quite a big play centre so this is a London borough. And it got to Thursday, which was timesheet day. And so my job was to give them out and get people to fill them in, give them back to me so that they could be sent off in this special pouch to the pay office. So I'd given them out, and I could tell in this staff room that there was a little bit of discontent and a little bit of grumbling, which was quite unusual. They were a great bunch to work with, and so I noticed, and as my job was to look after them, I sort of said, well, hi guys, what's happening here? What's your problem? And they sort of muttered a bit at me and said, oh, it's all right, nothing you can do. And I said, well, are you sure? And I said, what is it? And they said, well, we haven't been paid. Oh, sorry? What do you mean you haven't been paid? They said, well, we worked at Easter. Yes. we haven't been paid. Well, that's 12 weeks back that they haven't been paid. So I looked at them and I said, well, why are you here? Which they were a bit shocked by. And they said, well, you won't be able to run it. I said, that's not your problem. If you're not being paid, I was quite shocked. Anyway, we carried on chatting and I spoke to a couple of them. One of them had a car. And so I said, they chatted about what could they do? Because I said, well, you need to do something about this. And of course, we established at that moment, of course, that the people like me who were already on the payroll had been paid. We'd all been paid. It was only the casual labour who weren't already on the council's payroll. So I knew where the pay office was. So the two of the play leaders decided to go off and go to the pay office and ask them what had happened. We chatted about what they could ask. We chatted about what they could do. Anyway, so they came in the next morning and I looked at them and I could see by the looks on their faces that it wasn't good. And they told me what had been said to them and they'd just been completely fobbed off. Just nobody had really even listened to them or taken any notes about what they were talking about, nothing. I was pretty annoyed by this. They were good workers, they deserved to be paid, they were under contract. So I waited until the man who collected the pouch. So this was a, very big thing. He was a council employee. I waited for him to come in and I had to establish first that the reason that I was grilling him with questions was not because I, for a second, thought that he wasn't handing over the timesheets and that he was losing them on the way or doing something horrible with them, because I knew I'd been paid and my timesheet was in there as well. So I knew that the timesheets had got through, which I was able to assure him, no, it's nothing to do with you. I know you're doing your job. However, none of the people here have been paid for Easter, and apparently it applied to all the play centres. Nobody been paid that was casual labour. So I grilled this poor chap, whose name was Clive, about where he took them, where it was, who it was. I just grilled and grilled and grilled and got lots of information out of him. And I also checked with him as to what time he would be handing them over today. So I waited for an hour after that time had elapsed and phoned through to the pay office. So when I said I'd like to speak to the person who's received the timesheets from Row Green Play Centre, the person just blustered at me and told me, well, I'm not sure I know who that would be, blah, 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 at me. And so I said, oh, well, I understand the lady's called Mrs. Bennett. There was a deadly silence. And so I said, could I possibly speak to Mrs. Bennett? And there was a long, so the person said, oh, all right then. Just a moment while I put you through. There was a long gap whilst this person, I'm assuming, had a quick word with Mrs. Bennett, the fact that I was calling from the play centre. Got through to Mrs. Bennett and I checked with her. Oh, is this Mrs. Bennett? Yes, this is Mrs. Bennett. I said, do you receive the timesheets from Row Green Play Centre? Have you received them today? And she said, oh, well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I haven't had a chance to look through them yet. So I said, oh, right. Well, I said, perhaps you could help me about the Easter timesheets then. Deadly silence again. Then she gathered herself and said, well, that's a few weeks ago now. I'd have to go and look those up. And that might take me a little bit of time. And I said, oh, well, if you could assure me that you are going to be able to find the timesheets, because actually at the moment, none of the casual labour people here have been paid. And I'm not entirely sure that they will be coming in on Monday. And that's going to put me in a lot of bother. Oh, lots of bluster, lots of at me. And so again, she said this, oh, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. I said, okay. I said, do I understand that your table is by a window? Yes. Right. Okay. To help you to be able to start finding out your information then as soon as possible, how about you reach out your left hand, pick up the cardboard box that's on the windowsill, start sorting through it and see if you can find the yellow timesheets that have come from Row Green Play Centre. Bang went the phone. We have to then fast forward a week. All of the play leaders were paid by the following Friday. And when the pouch man came in and he asked the play leaders, had they been paid this week, he was absolutely delighted and came over and we had a high five. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorna. That was like following a breadcrumb mystery. Like you were the detective going from Clive to Miss Bennett and then trying to figure out what happened to the timesheets. But hey, you are the hero of the story. You got the mystery solved. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Lorna. And now we're going to welcome our next storyteller, Omar. Omar's joining us from Marrakesh. So for all of us who were at the festival, this is going to feel a little bit reminiscent of the beginning of the year. Let me just spotlight Omar. Just a minute. I don't see Omar here. Okay. Omar, are you ready? I see that you're still on mute with your video off. Could you just unmute and then I can pin your chat? Omar, can you hear me? Okay, I'm not sure if Omar is able to hear me. I'll just give it another shout out. If not, we'll come back to Omar and we can start with the next storyteller first.
Yes, do you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Perfect. Do you have a video as well?
Yes, I do have.
Okay, great. So let me spotlight.
Can
We can see you. Yes,
can you see me right now?
we can.
Okay, so hello everybody and happy Eid to all the Muslims all around the globe, and I'm very happy to be with you here today, and I'm very excited to share with you my story. So so I'm going to share with you a little bit a little story about my it is a real story, and I hope you like the. I'm not going to share it as we do like in the storytelling, like we are with the whole emotions and something like this, but I'm just going to just telling you things like this. So I hope, and maybe at the end of the story you can give me some advices or something like that. That's it. This is the main important thing about my story. So let's get started. Is that okay for you?
All good.
All right. Thank you so much. So do you hear me well? Because I'm in a windy place now. In my small village. I just moved. I moved from Marrakesh to my village because today is Eid, and it's windy. So I hope you hear well.
We can. Go ahead, Omar.
Okay, so let's tell a story about myself. So Omar, as you know, I'm from Marrakesh. I am a storyteller from Marrakesh. I'm 27 years old, and before I'm going to tell you my story about Omar before 2018, 280, and after that, before 218, and after that. So Before that, it's like I'm a little bit shy, stressful. I don't know, all these kind of emotions, because this is my first time I share my real story with someone in a professional way. So it is a little bit stressful. My story goes like, when I was a little boy, I witnessed something happened in front of my eyes. So from that moment, a lot of things changed in my mind, and my way of thinking, my everything changed in my life, and especially my way of thinking. And also from that time, I was in a dream. That's, I don't know how you can understand what I mean about that, but it is like kind of a dream. After that happened, after what I witnessed, I'm not going to share with you what is exactly, because it is a little bit really private thing. But it is something, someone okay to try to kill someone in front of my eyes. So and in 218, it was like the very important year in my whole life, because a lot of things changed. I was very, like, when I was diagnosed with the schizoaffective disorder. Niharika already know about that. So when I was diagnosed about this, it was something that changed all my personality, my thinking, my everything in my life changed. So I was and I'm going. My important my story today is like to share with you like the good thing about my disease, because it gives me some power, it gives me some encourage, it gives me some good power. And for example, when I was before that, I was a little bit shy, a little bit timid. I don't speak to people. I don't have a lot of friends. I was kind of person that speak to people. I don't share my story. I don't make friendship. And a lot of things. After after this diagnosis, I was like, give me like something very important in my life, because I faced, I was in a very very dark time, and it gave me like I self discovery of a lot of things, especially especially with like my personality. I was a little bit encouraged man. I am now, for example, I can speak to people, I can make laugh of things that happened to me, like this a tragedy, and they can make it very funny. Uh, to be honest with you, I did not prepared my story. I just improvise things right now, because sometimes I feel a bit like it hurts to go back to the bad memories and to remember them and to make them like a story. But instead of that, I still say to myself that I have this courage to share my story with people. So my story today is like, it goes like, all the people, and this is a message to the young generation that are in my age. So if they have some kind of schizoaffective or something like that, with the psychiatry or something like this, especially in my world, in my place, in the place, in my village, or in the Morocco country, I would give him advice is that don't be shy of who you are. Like, it is like a very small part of you. It is not the thing that it defines you. For example, it's not like I'm schizoaffective, so I'm not going to share. I'm not going to be like successful. I'm not going to work. I'm not going to study. Instead of that, I have this guy schizoaffective. I have a bad memory. I have bad in concentration. I have a lot of things bad that affect me. This disease that affect me in a bad way. But instead, I still fighting every single day. I woke up and I have depression. I have anxiety and I have anger and I have fear. But I still fighting and fighting, and say to myself, okay, this is I have all these things. So, but what is the solution? Shall I just go home and just, this is my, like, I know some two kind of people that are in my case, and I have two friends who are just sitting at home. they have the same that I meet with them in the on the hospital, and they are just sitting at home and they don't do anything, crying at home and they're just sitting at home and they don't study, and they are like the face the this disease with failure and with a lot of disappointment, a lot of frustration. But the thing that I try to do, I'm not going to say to you that I'm very perfect or something like that, no at all, but just this is a message to people who are facing something very strongly in every single day. They have psychiatry or something like this. It is okay to have these things in life. It is a very small part of life. I'm not brave enough to tell something to people. There is like, for example, in my case, I'm not that kind of very courage to tell my people that I know about my disease, but people that I don't know. For example, in storytelling, I can enter some of my disease in the storytelling. I can choose the stories that has the same values or the same morals that I want to share with people. At the end of the story, I share with them and I say, "Do you know that I have this kind of the disease, or I have this kind of anger? I have the same of fear." For example, if there's a character in the story that has the same kind of fear, okay, that's it. So and also the thing that I want to share with you is like the importance of your beloved ones in your life. If you have a beloved one in your life, for example, your parents, your father, your mother, friends, brothers, sisters, or anyone, you need to have at least one in your life, a beloved one that can give you this power to face every single day, because it takes a lot of effort, because it is something that we live with. It is like it's not something that 2 years or 4 years. It's the whole life. It is part of you. In my case, it is my mother. My mother, who is like, it is like, it is a contradictory thing, because she is part of my disease and she is a part of my solution of the disease. So in general, it is the big part of my solution of my disease, because she is the only one who said to me in the first place, "You can do it. Just if I'm not good, she just go to me and she say to me, 'It's okay, my son. It's just a period, and it will go now. It will gone. Take your time. If you're not going to study, if you're not able to study, it's okay. If you're not able to, it's okay. We can help you. This is it's not it's not it's not given to all it's not given to all people, because to have a mother illiterate, you cannot write or read in a very ignorant place like the place where I live right now, and they had this mentality. I really appreciate her, and I say thank you to her every single day, and I kiss her head, and I say to her, "Thank you, my mother," and because she helped me a lot with my disease and my disorder. Also, I would thank everyone who is like giving me this power and encourage me all the time, because it sometimes words has the power, and that's the case with storytelling, because words has power. Someone, for example, just give you a good word, and this is very powerful in Islam. And
Does she have a shot? She's definitely got a shot. She's one great. Omar, I think we
yes,
had somebody else talk. Right. Thank you so
okay,
much, Omar, for sharing so
yes,
much
you're very welcome.
deep things
Yes,
about yourself. And I want to say, Omar, that I know that you're shy, and not just that, I know that you have a diagnosis that makes it a lot harder for you to come and share with us today. And still, you made the effort to do that. So thank you for sharing your story with us. And I know that you do also understand that you want to work on this story, because you had reached out to me before as well and said that you want to create a story around your diagnosis. And I would love to do that with you. I can definitely hear bits and pieces in what you shared with us today, like about your mother and how she supported you, or about how 2018 was a pivotal year of change for you. I can see that there are a lot of story threads that you can explore and bring into your stories. So definitely let's connect and start to explore the story together. Thank you for sharing, Omar. Okay, we are ready for our next teller. I think that was a bit heavy. That was a bit difficult, both for Omar and for the listeners. So we'll just shift gears a little bit now and welcome Imrose from India. Imrose, I'm going to spotlight you, and then you can also unmute and start your video. I think before I can, yes,
Hello, hello. I think I'm audible. I hope I'm audible.
yes, you're all
Hello, am
good.
I audible? Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, we can hear
My
you.
hi everyone. My name is Rose Khan. I'm from India. I tell stories, but my stories have always been in Hindi. So now this is going to be the very few times when I'll be going to be performing in English. I'll ask for your forgiveness way before I start. Uh, I do not want to offend anyone, but the culture in India is so vivid, so diverse that you might end up offending people. So you have to be very sure when not doing that. So my story is called Guru Cool. Guru as a word means teacher and cool means the little term cool. But Gurukul is itself a Sanskrit word in which people used to, a place where people used to come and learn, a space, a school like space where people used to come and learn. So this is Gurukul. And this the reason why I'm telling you the meaning of this, because the story is titled Gurukul. In India, we have something called examinations for admission in colleges, and because of the population we have and the college number we have, it's inversely proportional, that the colleges we have is like 10, but the students are giving exams are like 10,000. It's very tough to get into these colleges, and that's where privatization of education happens. So people and students of 11th and 12th grades, what they do is they do not go to schools and colleges. They enroll themselves in an absentee school, and they prepare for this competitive and entrance exams, which is called NEET for medical and JEE for engineering. Most of the crowd of Indian students have been around this. But the traditional way of education in India have been gurukuls, where people used to come and stay in a school and learn things. So my story is going to be about that. So I'll try to convert it into English in my head and then speak, just for the obvious reason. But I definitely would love to perform someday for you people in Hindi. It starts like the relation I have with my father is similar to that of what India has with Pakistan, or what Israel has with Palestine, or Russia has with Ukraine, or China with any other nation. We do not get along at all. We are enemies. Frenemies for the, I'll give the benefit of my doubt to my father. Frenemies may be the term. For example, I gave an exam which was a national exam in a lakh and in a million students. I ranked 16th. Yes, right. 1616. And any father's first reaction to this news would be, Beta, my son, I'm very proud of you. My father's first reaction, because we are enemies, that is what I will assume, was 15 people are still ahead of you. And that was such a blow to my face that I had to sit back and prepare even harder to score good. And my father will be so proud of me today, because in a crowd of international audience, I'm bitching about him. So that is a different thing, by the way. So the story here goes that but my father, he's a professor in English. He teaches in a college where students from the minorities are a part of this college. Minorities, as in the religious minorities, and it is a state sponsored. It is sponsored by the government of India, and he teaches in this college. The students of this college are normally come from marginalized communities, and people who normally are daily wage earners. Students studying in these schools are daily wage earners. They study and they work in the morning and they come in the evening for school. This kind of students are being taught by my father, and I've always seen my father calling these kids before prior to the exams. and telling them that, son, you have an exam tomorrow. Please come to the college. Son, we need to fill your admit card. You need to get the admit card for your exams. You need to fill forms for your exam. And my father used to do it for every other student that he used to teach. But when it came to me, he didn't give a flying squirrel about it. Yes, squirrel is the word, guys. Not going there. Not want to be offend anyone, of course. So yeah. So what happened is, this was my father. So this was the way my father brought me up. But I always used to look at my father, and I wanted to be a professor. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to serve the students that he was serving. But when I took admission in the 11th and 12th grade, where normally people start with preparation of this competitive exams for getting into colleges, I saw a different world there. The teacher who used to teach here, who I would like to call as Guru and Cool, Cool as in the little word. So this Guru Cool used to come to this 1 hour lecture half an hour late. So in a lecture of 60 minutes, he used to come 30 minutes late. In the remaining 30 minutes of his lecture, 15 minutes of it he used to use it to tell us how hard his life was, and the rest 15 minutes, just for the pity and the sake of it, he used to teach us something or the other. Because I was a professor's son and I know this is not what education is. I started voicing over my opinion in the class, maybe by hooting, maybe by yelling, maybe by passing comments in the class. And one such day, one fine day, I came to know that our Gurukul, who has his birthday coming up in a week, is planning to buy a BMW car, which is a very premium car. And the market value of that car was around a crore, like so, around a crore Indian rupees. Um, so what I did, because I was in so much rage of this professor, I said, let his car come. The first scratch on his car would be my scratch. I'll scratch his car. I don't know how this news reached to this particular professor. Now you will have to understand that Indian classrooms or classroom anywhere in the world have this ass-licking students, the first benchers, who are like the secret agents of teachers, and they run to teacher whenever they see something like this. The same thing happened with me. My professor came to know about my brilliant plan that I had planned to give a scratch on his car, and this is what happened: that he called me in his office. Now, when I was going in his office, there were few students lined up outside his cabin. The students who were lined up outside his cabin were the backbenchers, the so-called goons, the gangsters, students of our tuition, and they all had their heads down. They were ashamed of something, God knows what, and they looked at me going inside. These are the same students who used to bully me and friends of mine. And then when we entered the classroom, what happened when I entered sir's office, I see guy sitting on the chair. I could not see his face because his back was facing me. But as soon as I entered, that guy turned around and I see who is it? He is my father. And just like a son, my soul left my body. I almost died. I had a stroke. Something similar. Not literally, but figuratively. I was scared. And my sir said, Ki, Mr. Sajjad, my father, ask your son that what he has actually said to me or about me in the class. So the problem here is that I used to say 100 things that were like shitty and mean about that professor. And when he asked my father to ask me something that I've said which is mean to him, I was not sure which one. It should not happen that I tell A and you are expecting B reason and beat me for the C reason. Okay. So the beatings that I'll get will be thrice. So I didn't want to risk it. For the longest time, what happened is me and my professor get to and fro, which is like you say, no, you say. तुम बता, नहीं तुम बताओ, नहीं आप बताओ, नहीं आप बताओ. तो ये हमारा चला है. For the longest time, this went on. And then finally, sir gave up and I said, ki, my guru cool gave up and he said your son, Mr. Sajjad, said that he'll put a scratch on my car, the new car that I'm planning to buy on my birthday. And I was very scared. My father looked at me. He asked me, did you say this? I said, yes. Then he asked me to say sorry to sir. I, without any second thought, because my father asked me, I said sorry to him. And when I said sorry, this professor, this sir, says this to me that this guy is lying. He is not sorry enough. Look at his face. This sorry does not feel something that has come from his heart. And I was like, sorry, the best you can get from me is a sorry. I'm not assuring that I won't give you a scratch or something, but this is the best you can get from me. But he looked at me and he didn't say a word. I was very scared. He asked me and my father to leave, and my I was asked to leave the office. My father stayed back for some time, and after some time, when my father came outside, I was very scared because the repo which Indian kids have with their father is not very good. Just I said in the very beginning that it is China with any other nation. Okay, so that is the repo with me and my father as well. I was very scared. I thought he'll beat me today. I'll get beatings. But my dad looked at me. He said that I know what you said was wrong, but you had no wrong intention. Your anger, your rage came from a place which was not satisfied by your professors. They should have been teaching you, but whatever happened, I'm not angry on you. I'm very proud for you to stand out and speak for things that have been going wrong. And for a moment, I was like, "Ye mere papa to nahi hai. This is not my father. What happened? I don't know. I thought it got changed or like soft or something." You know what happened the very next day? So when Sir's birthday was there, the Guru Cool's birthday was there. The BMW was supposed to come. It did came, but there was something really cool which happened that day. There were three new barricades in the parking and two new bodyguards, and everyone in the tuition knew that this is because of the threat that I have given to Professor. So the bullies were sitting outside, the gangsters and bullies were sitting outside the office of Sir. They now thought I am one of them, and they never bullied me or my friends. So I became a gangster in my school, in not the literal sense, but in the sense where I would never be bullied, and people will listen to me. And Sir was scared. Okay, he was dead scared. So yeah, this is my story, and there's a follow-up poem that I do, which is normally in Hindi, and I want to recite it, but I think that it won't be understood. So I'll keep it to myself. Someday again, I'll translate it in English with a very good references and come back here. Thank you so much, Niharika, and the World Storytelling Cafe for giving me this
Thank you.
opportunity. I have tried to do justice to the story, and this is the first time I'm translating it. I don't know why I'm doing that. Thank you so much for
Very well done.
having me.
Thank you, Ambrose. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
Thank you.
much. I know that
Yeah.
your stories are typically in Hindi, so thank you for coming and sharing in English with an international audience. It landed. We know that you were that troublemaker kid of a high expectations father. And trust me, it's not an Indian thing. Now I've heard stories from international tellers. The expectations of fathers come into many stories. So we all relate with you 100%.
This is so
We
amazing.
understand.
I really want this news to reach out to Indian parents that kids all over the world are problematic because they think
Yes.
only we are problematic.
Yeah. Yeah, there are definitely gangsters in all schools. Let's just say that. Thank you, Ambrose. And we have Rona joining us next. So I am going to spotlight Rona and we'll move on to Rona's story. Rona, are you ready, Rona? If you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, that would help.
Yay. Awesome. Thank you, Rona. All you now.
Okay. I'm not spotlighted on mine, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. I actually prefer that because I can see you all. Yeah, I have had so many things happen to me that I found it difficult to decide which story to tell you. But I don't know whether you know this, but my nickname is the unsinkable Rona B because I have had so many brushes with death that it's unbelievable. But I'll tell you about this particular one. My oldest son, who has learning difficulties, had been with me for quite some time, and for the period of the 2 years prior to this incident, it had been a very difficult time, very trying, exhausting, and I now had a reprieve, and I was going up to Glasgow to spend some time with my sister and go and finish a job that I had started at Glasgow University. And there was only one day left on that particular project, and I was going to do it the very next day. So I went up and stayed with my sister that night, and then the next day I went into the university and I carried out my tutorial. And at the end, you know, everybody comes over and wants to talk to you and ask you questions and things. And all of a sudden there was a rattle on the door, and it was one of those office doors that has a little glass window so you can look in and see who's there. and this girl's face appeared, and she looked as if she had just had the fright of her life, and she's chapping away, and she's going like this to me, you see. And I went over and I opened the door, and she went, "Now, Mrs. Barber, don't panic." Well, the first thing you do when somebody says something like that is you panic. And I was like, "What's happened? What's wrong?" She says, "Well, we've just had a phone call to let you know that your son's in the hospital." And I'm thinking, "Oh, which son? Surely it can't be Stephen, you know, that's my oldest." And I said, "Was it Stephen?" She said, "Yeah, that's it, it's Stephen. But you've not to worry because he's stable now, but he did have a seizure that lasted for 40 minutes. 40 minutes? Oh my God, that had never happened before. So obviously I was very concerned, and I went back to the group who were all standing and had heard what was said, and they were like, oh, I'm so sorry, you better go." And I said, "Yes, I'm going right now. I'm sorry, guys, no more time for chat, but I'll get back to you all on email." And I grabbed my little wheelie case, my briefcase, my handbag, and I shot out the door, went downstairs, got a taxi, and there was a 5 o'clock train going down to Manchester, and I jumped on that train. And I phoned my sister from the train. "Hi, Helen. Sorry, I'm not coming back to yours tonight because Stephen's in the hospital. He's fine, but obviously I've got to get down there and see what's going on." "Well, what are you going to do about your stuff?" she said. I said, "What stuff?" She said, "Well, your case and your..." I had them with me. I said, "Oh, I've got them here." She said, "How come? Did you know that you weren't coming back here tonight?" I said, "No, I didn't know." "I think you did," she said. "What's going on?" I said, "Helen, I promise you, I did not know I was coming back to Manchester tonight. I was going to be staying with you." Well, it wouldn't have mattered what I said. Helen was never going to be convinced of that. I had left with my wheelie case, which, by the way, has my world in it. And when I was on the train and my daughter phoned me, and my husband and I had been separated for some years at that point, but we were still on good terms, still friends almost. Frenemies, I think, is as Omar had described it earlier. And my daughter says, "I've asked my dad to come and meet you at Warrington Station, Mum. It'll be much easier for you to get to the hospital from there." And I thought, "That's really sweetheart. That's so kind. Thank you so much." So my husband was coming to meet me at Warrington Station. Unfortunately, there had been a lorry had, tumbled over, or whatever you want to call it, on the motorway, and it held him up for an hour and a half. So I'm sitting at this station in Warrington. And by the way, when I arrived at the station in Warrington, I went downstairs right away. It was about 7 o'clock by this time. And there's a cafe at Warrington Station, and I thought, "Oh, I'll get something to eat," because I hadn't had any lunch. I was getting nearer and nearer to the buffet table during the tutorial, but everybody had got there before me. When I got there was some crisps and some grapes, and that was it. So I had them, but I was hungry, obviously. And I got downstairs in this station at Warrington just to see the guy pulling the grill down. I thought, "Oh no." So then I had an hour and a half's wait for my husband to arrive. And he was so apologetic. I said, "Don't be stupid, it's not your fault." So we made our way to the hospital, finally got to the hospital at about 10 minutes to 9 in the evening. I'm expecting to see my son, at the very least in bed, if not wired up. No, the bold Stephen is wandering about the ward in his tiger onesie, chatting up all the nurses and any female patients that he could get his hands on. I wanted to kill him. I was, that exasperation, you want to kiss them and kill them at the same time. So anyway, it was fine. And we are very familiar faces at that hospital. It's the brain unit in Salford. And the nurse that night actually knew me. She said, "Oh, Mrs. Barber, it's good to see you." She said, "But you're looking awful pale. Would you like a cup of tea?" I said, "Oh, I'd love a cup of tea." She says, "Well, I see if there's a wee biscuit to go with it." And I was like, "Oh, yes, please." So she goes away, comes back with a cup of tea. She says, "Oh, I'm sorry, Rona, there's no biscuits left. There's no bread, there's nothing." I said, "Oh, don't worry, it's okay." By this time, my stomach thinks my throat's been cut, so I'm starving. Anyway, I stayed, I don't know how I managed to stay calm enough to stay for half an hour, because I really did want to kill him. So I left, and my husband was driving me home. And I live about 40 minutes away from the hospital. And I said to him, please stop on the A56. I'm going to go and get myself some fried chicken. Now, I very rarely buy carry-out food, mainly because I like to cook, but always because I'm never quite sure what I'm going to be eating and who's been handling it first. You know, I'm a wee bit yucky about that. So I went in and got this bag of fried chicken in a brown bag, and I'm holding it like this. And at this point, I'm only 5 minutes away from my home. We get there, and I lived in a Tudor block of flats, which even the king wouldn't get into without the code. You know, it's very, very secure. My husband said, do you want me to come up with you? I said, no, I'm just going to have this chicken, watch the Game of Thrones episode that I've missed, and then I'm going to my bed. And he said, grand, okay, I'll speak to you tomorrow. So I went upstairs, and I am a creature of habit, and I do the same thing every night when I get home. Not this time. This time, I didn't even lock my door. I dropped my briefcase on the floor just inside the door, just pushed the door closed, put the keys and my handbag on the console table, and went through and flipped up my fancy chair and started eating this chicken. Hadn't even washed my hands. I was inhaling it out of the bag. I was so hungry. I was like, that's the last thing I remember. I woke up as if somebody was hitting me on the back of the head with an axe. It was the most terrifying thing I had ever or have ever experienced. And I knew what was happening because 2 years before, my oldest sister had died of a brain hemorrhage. And I knew that that's what was happening to me. I couldn't move. I thought, this is it. My number's up and I can't even tell anybody. I can't tell my son I still love him, even though he's a little bugger. And I'm looking about. I could move my head and I could move this arm only so far. And I looked down to the side of the chair. My middle son, Adam, had been in my house the night before and had been on the phone to his girlfriend. And he'd left it. Lazy little so-and-so that he is had left the phone lying by the chair. And that's what saved my life. I picked it up and there was 2 bars left on the battery. And I phoned my daughter and I said, something's wrong. And she knew right away by the sound of my voice. Mum, phone an ambulance. I said, no, I want you to come. Mum, phone an ambulance right now. I can't come because I've got the 3 boys here. I'll phone Tim. He's down at Richard's. I'll tell him to come back, leave him with the boys, and I'll come straight to the hospital and meet you there. But I want you to, Mum, just do what I tell you for once. Okay. So I phoned 999. And the girl who answered the phone, she knew. She didn't know exactly what was wrong, but she knew it was something pretty drastic. And she said, can you get to your door to open your door? I said, no, I can't. And I was aware that I was speaking, but I was also aware that I could hardly hear what I was saying, never mind whoever was on the other end of the phone. But she did manage to make out what I was saying. And she said, can you slide onto the floor? I said, I don't know, but I'll try. I couldn't move. My body felt like a stone weight that I had no control over. And I tried to wriggle, and there was some little bit of movement, but not enough. She said, don't panic, the ambulance is on its way. See that don't panic thing? They should all obliterate those words from the English language, because that's the first thing you do when you hear them. I thought, I'm definitely going to die. This is it. It's over. I managed to slide kind of half onto the floor. So my back was resting at the chair, but because it was one of those chairs that you can flip up, it was a very awkward position and I couldn't move. And I looked at the phone and it was now dead. The battery had gone. The ambulance was only 300 yards away from my front door. And within minutes, I heard these footsteps, and I heard the door getting pushed open and then closed. And these two men come running into the living room. And one of them picked me up as if I was a rag doll and carried me to the lift. And they took me down in the lift and they had me in the ambulance. And the story goes that, according to my daughter, the ambulance man said to them when they got me to the hospital, the same hospital that my son's in, by the way. I'm now in the critical care unit upstairs and he's in the assessments units downstairs. And he said to my daughter, the youngest daughter, he said, your mum's a bloody nightmare. She's been giving us grief all the way in here. By the way, I've got a bone to pick with you. Why have you got your me-mo going on at 3 o'clock in the morning when there's nothing happening? And by the way, and apparently I had been like this all the way into the hospital, giving these guys grief. And he said to my daughter, I wanted to tell your mother, we're saving people's lives, you silly old biddy, people like you. The next thing, this nurse appears with the biggest pair of scissors you've ever seen in your life. She wants to cut my dress off. My favourite dress. That's not happening. And I'm like this, no. So one nurse comes and grabs this arm, my daughter grabs this arm, and this nurse cuts my dress off. And apparently, and I don't swear as a rule, I have been known to say the odd word, but apparently I was effing and blinding at this nurse. But cutting my dress off, how dare you? How very dare you? This is my favourite dress. This is my work dress. Unconscious again. They took me to Withenshaw Hospital first. And when they realised, they put me through the scanner thing, and when they realised it was what they thought it was, which was a brain bleed, not a stroke, then they took me straight then to Salford Royal Hospital, where I was there for 12 days, unconscious most of the time. And the doctors told my family that I was very, very lucky and one of only 2% of the people who survive that kind of brain bleed. That didn't surprise my family because, as I say, I've had a few brushes with death and I'm still here. But I am forever grateful to those guys in the ambulance, forever grateful to that nurse, forever grateful to everybody that works in the NHS in the UK, but more grateful than ever to my son Adam for being a lazy little bugger and leaving that phone by the side of the chair.
Thank you so much, Rona. I feel like this is one of those stories which has a big moment, but there are a lot of small, unremarkable moments that most of us forget. But you kind of had all of those moments painted for us up until the big moment. Really,
I do still, it's weird, I still relive that. I mean, I've had a whole lot of other things that have happened, but I still relive that actual time when that happened. And every now and again, I'll remember something that I didn't remember before.
Right.
But my sister Helen, to this day, she still insists that I knew that I was going to be going home. Well, I didn't know, but somebody knew. Somebody up there knew.
Well, what was the color of your dress? What was the design of your favorite dress like?
Oh, well, no. I could always get another dress. It wasn't the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world. You're here and we are happy. We're so happy to hear your story today. Thank you, Rona.
Thank you.
All right, we are at the last story of the evening today. So I am going to change the spotlight to our very own Roger. Roger, I'm going to put you on spotlight now.
Thank you very much indeed. It's great. Yeah, lovely, great story. Trust me to have to follow that, Rona. Thanks very much. Wonderful, wonderful. But just fantastic listening to all these stories because teaching or education has been a theme through almost all of them, and that's what my story is too. Just by way of introduction, I am a Singaporean by birth. I know I don't sound or look like it. My parents were British service parents, so I grew up in UK and then moved here in 1978 and took up my birthright. But my story, and the reason why I wanted to share this story, is that this September marks the 50th anniversary of my very first day of teaching as a drama teacher in UK. So this is a story from my, the first part of my life as an Englishman. So the story really begins in May of that year, May of 1975, when I was like 1 month away from completing my 1 year postgrad certificate of education, which sort of technically qualified me to be a teacher. And I had an interview and I was hired by the head of drama at the Dean's School in Thundersley, which is a small town very close to Southend in Essex. But by the time that I arrived at the start of the school year in September, two things had happened. First of all, she had resigned suddenly and unexpectedly, so they were unable to replace her. So I became the de facto head of drama and found myself not only having to schedule my own lesson plans, but also provide lesson plans for other staff who were even less experienced than me. But perhaps more fundamentally importantly, what had happened in May was that the government had realised the terrible state that the British economy was in, and so there being no jobs available, had decided to raise the school leaving age from 15 to 16, and thereby created a group of students known as the Rosler kids, raising the school leaving age, of age 15, who thought in May, yay, this is the end of our schooling. From next month there'll be no more teachers, no more homework, no more uniforms or discipline. And they found in June, oh no, we've got to come back and suffer and study for another year. So when I arrived in September, the school had already sorted out their timetable, the important things, English, maths, science and PE, but they found that they had 2 periods left, the first 2 periods on the Monday morning and the last 2 periods on Friday afternoon. And that deputy headmaster looked around and he thought, aha, Jenkins, why don't we let the Rosler kids do some drama? No writing and reading in drama, is there? Well, unfortunately for them, my timetable was already very full. And so he said, okay, since you can only have 1 double period, Jenkins, we'll split it. And you can do period 1 on Monday and period 8 on Friday. And what really pissed me off as much as it did the kids was that session 2 on Monday and session 7 on Friday, I was free and they were free. Well, they weren't free, actually. They were given a supervised silent study, which they didn't like at all. So I was stuck with these Rosler kids, okay, and quite frankly, they made my life hell. There I was barely 6 years older than they were, totally inexperienced and ill-equipped by my middle-class upbringing and my what was textbook training to be able to help these kids who were so thoroughly disillusioned. And well, quite frankly, they had been, discarded by society. They were regarded as factory fodder. So there I was, and I felt I was really floundering. I dreaded Monday mornings, and I was only too glad when Friday came around. I felt that I was sinking, in really, well, if not exactly deep water, then it was something very deep and brown and very smelly indeed. But fortunately, in that group, there was a young boy named Paul Cotgrove. He was a very tall kid, actually a bit taller than me, and he had this incredibly striking quiff done in the kind of teddy boy style, and his hair was a very pale blonde, very striking young man. And after 3 or 4 sessions, he came up to me and he said, "Sir, couldn't we do this something that's a bit more interesting?" And of course, I was a bit offended by that. I said, well, what do you mean, interesting? And he said, well, this improvising drama stuff, it's really boring. Can we do some horror? Well, horror was a really popular genre. Maybe it still is in UK, as I say, haven't lived there since 1978. But Hammer horror films, for example, were extremely popular. And Paul was a huge fan. In fact, he'd even written a script and he handed it me, 4 pages, handwritten by himself. So I took it home and read it over the weekend. And that's when I got my idea. Because the school had a video camera. Now, it's not nowadays, of course, it's very easy. You can hold it like this. But back in 1975, the video camera was this massive, heavy metal thing that had to be mounted on a solid tripod on wheels, a dolly. And it was attached by this thick, like umbilical cord to the recorder, which was another massive machine that required its own trolley. So, you had to move the 2 of them around as you tried to film anything. It was a nightmare. But I thought, great, we could try and make a movie of Paul's script. So on the Monday morning, I went in and the kids are there and I'm trying to set up the equipment. And of course, after 35 minutes, the bell rings and we hadn't even started filming. Well, of course, the kids thought this was a great excuse. They never wanted to go to supervised silent study, so they stayed on with me. And finally, we did manage to actually film something. I got them just to stand in front of the camera, say hello, make horrible faces and all that kind of thing. But we didn't have time to watch it. So Friday, the 7th period comes around, and I asked Paul to come in and help me to set up, to get the recorder linked up with the mobile TV. Well, of course, the kids thought this was a great opportunity, so they skipped out of their silent supervised study and came, and then we managed to watch what we'd filmed, and they really enjoyed it. Just seeing themselves make, silly faces and do silly things. We actually watched it twice, I think. And that's when I pitched my idea. I said, why don't we make a film of Paul's script? Okay, because it was all about ghosts and ghouls and the graveyard and lots of gore. And Paul said, yeah, I think we should do this, didn't we? And the kids, well, they said, okay, because Paul wasn't really the sort of kid that you said no to, really. But we very quickly discovered that even with 2 70-minute sessions, because I was now doing 2 full sessions a week with them, that we couldn't actually make any progress on filming because it was just, it just took so long to get the equipment all set up. And that's when Paul said, hey, sir, he said, next week is half term, isn't it? So why don't we come in? I mean, there'll be nobody around, so we could take the whole day and we could, film around the place. Back at the toilets where we go for a quickie, yeah, that'd be a really spooky place, wouldn't it? And so that's what we did. On the Monday morning, we came in, the school was practically empty. And we were all getting ready. The girls were very busy. They were putting on, putting the boys' white makeup, getting the black and putting on scars and stitches and lots of blood. They'd found some fright wigs in the costume store. And I said, okay, let's do the first scene, the ghosts in the graveyard, so that we can get everybody involved. So they're screaming and there's groaning and moaning. And we've got the kind of lights all very atmospheric. And suddenly, the doors of the drama studio are thrown open. Now, I should have said that, unfortunately, the idiot who designed the school had sited the drama studio right next to the main entrance lobby of the school. So every so often, the headmaster, Mr. Gordon W. Taylor, will I ever forget that name? Mr. Taylor would come to me and he'd say, Jenkins, I've got the county school inspector coming tomorrow, so could you please get the kids to do something that's quiet and won't be disturbing? Perhaps they could pretend that they were owls roosting. Seriously, that's what he said. They could be owls roosting. Would that be all right? So, as I say, there we were in the midst of our ghost apocalypse and having great fun, tremendous noise, and the doors are suddenly thrown open, and there, standing in the doorway, is none other than the headmaster. And he looks, and of course, to his horror, what does he see? He switches on the lights, the floodlights are all there. What does he see? He sees the delinquents. He sees the troublemakers. He sees the recalcitrant smokers. The kids who are repeatedly sent to his office again and again because the teachers cannot cope with their disobedience, their defiance, their downright disrespectful disinterest in what they're trying to teach them. And here they are, his students in his school, and they have no reason to be. Well, of course, they must be up to no good, right? So, of course, seeing this, I kind of come out from behind the camera and I say, no, headmaster, we're here. We're actually making a film of a script written by Paul Cotgrove over here. It's his script. Now, I hope that you're thinking, this is the pivotal moment in the story when this crusty old headmaster suddenly sees these boys and girls who have been discarded by society and classed as failures, and that here they are in his school, in their own time, on their holidays, working together and collaboratively on a creative project. And perhaps you're thinking that some tear welled up in his eye as his heart filled with pride as he looked at this young, enthusiastic, but quite frankly, not very competent drama teacher who had somehow managed to encourage and get these children to come in and do something. Is that what you're thinking? Not bloody likely. Taylor looked daggers at me and he said, well, Jenkins, you make damn sure that when you've finished, you get all these boys and girls off site within 10 minutes, and you'd better make damn sure that they don't break or steal anything before they do. Slam! I think at that moment we all realized that no matter what those kids did, it would never change anything. Sadly, we never did manage to complete Paul's film. Just was taking too long and the kids lost interest. But it did change my relationship with that class. They were never an easy class, but from that day forward, I never felt that I was out of my depth. But there is actually a surprising and unexpected positive postscript to that story. Leaping forward about 40 years to 2014, and I read on a BBC website a story about a man who had discovered 2 canisters of black and white film that had been thrown away into a dumpster. And he brought them home, and when he took them out and had a look at them, he saw that they were films made by Peter Sellers, shot in 1956, black and white, when he was, of course, yes, very famous as a radio actor because of The Goon Show, but he was hoping to break into TV and film. This was, of course, long before Dr. Strangelove and being there. So this man who'd found the films brought them to his local film festival, the Southend Film Festival, which happens to be a horror film festival. And the director of that film festival had actually made his own horror movie and managed to persuade a leading lady from Hammer Horror Films to come out of retirement and to take a starring role in that movie. And the director was, of course, none other than Paul Cotgrove.
Amazing. That is
Yeah.
a surprise ending.
It is. It's astonishing. And the festival goes on. I think it was in like March of this year. I believe Paul is still the director. Just amazing.
Roger, would you be expecting to see your name in credits?
Absolutely, yes. You know, produced by, directed by.
All
I
of
just,
it.
yeah, it's just very sad. I mean, how, you know, unfortunately, we often stigmatize kids, you know, and see that they believe there's no potential in them. It's just very sad, very sad.
Yeah, that is
That's
true.
a
And I can
great
relate
story,
to those kids.
Roger. That was a fabulous story. That was wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. It, as I say, it was nice to have that sense, you know, after so many years, to have that kind of, because when I read that, and I thought, I just read the story because it seems to, and then I saw the name Paul Cotgrove, and I thought, my God, it can't be. And so I did a search online, and it was.
Was him.
And he has a younger brother who was really enthusiastic in drama, who's gone on and become a very successful musician and has played with a number of very popular bands in UK. So we had some really talented kids in that group. And Alan Riley, who was also in that drama group, I mean, was studying as a O-level drama, and went on to found the Mask Theatre Company, which has been hugely popular in UK. So I was very blessed to have such talent in my first year of teaching.
Amazing. You can see all of these seeds sparking from students who were not even supposed to be there an extra year in the school.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Amazing. All right. So that was our final story today. Thank you so much for everyone who shared a piece of their lives with us, and so very different kinds of stories that we heard today. Some of it is going to be good celebration of Father's Day as well. I also want to share that we're going to take a break from summer. So we've been having these sessions over the past few months regularly, but we're going to take a break for summer. And then when we come after summer, we'll probably have maybe a new host, maybe a new format. I don't know. We'll see what shape this takes. If you do have ideas on where you would like the space to grow, just feel free to message me. And I would love to hear that. Usha, please feel
Yeah,
free to unmute yourself. You want to
yeah.
say something?
Hi. That was amazing. What an evening. And loved all the stories. I think John wants to share a story. I got a personal message from his chat. So let's ask John whether he wants to share a 5-minute story.
You're muted,
John,
John.
Unmute.
you're on mute. Let me see if
Unmute, John.
I've sent you a message, John, asking you to unmute.
Got it. Now, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, good. I just wanted to follow Rogers with a little thing because the children he was dealing with, that sort of child I was dealing with all the time, and it was a teaching practice, and they gave me fifth year last year, again, a group that was staying up to 16 and didn't want to, and they gave me, there was a shortage of rooms, so they made me teach them in a cloakroom. And so I did some Jamaican poetry with them, and I was talking about that they should be proud, people should be proud to use their own voice and not be ashamed of their local voices and so. And so I got them to write this piece in an East Anglian accent, the very accent that Arnold Wesker used for his play Roots, which was groundbreaking. And they worked really hard, and they got it all ready, and they had it all ready for Parents' Day. And it was after I'd finished Parents' Day. So when I came, and I was running a band about that night, but I tried to get there, but I got there a bit late, and the kids were in tears. The head had got them to rewrite it in standard English. And so I have every sympathy for Roger working with that head teacher.
That's awful, John. That really is. Yeah.
Yeah, I just
But
wanted
also,
to share that little tip.
cloakroom, a cloakroom, really? That
Yeah, where people hung their cloaks, yeah, their coats, yes.
Yeah.
Because these kids weren't worth anything in this head teacher's eyes.
Yeah.
And certainly the way they spoke was not to be celebrated.
Yeah, sorry, I seem to lost my internet there for a bit. But cloakroom, really? That was your classroom?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, John. All right. Thank you for sharing. We are at time now, so I thank you all for your patience today as we got started and kicked off. And thank you to all the storytellers who came and shared stories. Have a good evening or good night wherever you are.
I
And
must
see you
just say
again
what's
after-
coming up.
Yeah, please do share.
I know it's been amazing, all the stories, and thank you for bringing this to us. And what we got coming up on Thursday, Evita is doing her monthly and Vita and Maria Gillan of elemental stories at 6 o'clock UK time. So it's probably the middle of the night for some people. And the element this week is fire. And you're welcome to bring stories to that session. And on Friday, our children's session at 6 o'clock is our storyteller is Michael Kerrins. So thank you very much, everybody. And thank you for hosting.
That's my wee brother, Michael.
Yeah, I know. You
I
admitted it.
don't.
You
Pardon?
admitted it finally at
I know I have admitted it finally because he has at last grown up a little bit now that he's 60. 70, I mean. Oh, how can he be 70 when I'm only 60 and I'm the big sister? Oh, no, that doesn't work. Rachel, you were showing us something there. Was it a Father's Day card?
Was Rachel showing us something?
Yeah, she was holding.
Sorry,
something up.
yeah, I was. It's here. There's a picture. I'm a little ADHD. So there you go. There's Rhoda
Whoa!
Wow.
and Imraz,
Wow. Those are great.
and unfortunately, Omar was very dark, and I could only see his hand. Lorna,
It's terrific.
Wow.
Wow.
Roger. Don't think you came out the
Hey.
better for it, Roger. But your story was really like emotive, so your face was moving a lot. And the last one was the first one that I did.
Minu.
Minu, sorry.
Rachel,
There you go.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Rachel, can you send me a copy of mine, please?
Yeah, sure. No worries. They're
Yes,
not
I'm
the
sure
world's most
everyone would like to
complimentary
see.
things.
Thank you.
But enjoy. I have a call with my mum, so thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. All right. Good night.